as I discussed in the daily financial news today, there's an interview coming out at 6 p.m. Pacific that I think everybody has to watch. It happens to be with a young lady, Sarah, who served in the military. She served her 20. She is now retired and left the military. But what's important in this discussion is the mental shift that Sarah had that so few have. And I'm going to share Sarah's story with Matt and Dion because I want to recognize other mental roadblocks that we have seen in our followers, seen in the folks that we are trying to help. Because I do sometimes think we put in our own barriers that aren't there. But if you're putting them there, they certainly feel that way. Matt, I don't know if you caught the daily financial news this morning, but let me lay the story on you. You ready?
I was mid-eviction, but go ahead.
You were mid-eviction. You were kind of busy. I understand. I've been through a few of those. So here's the story. And again, it's not Sarah's story that's important. It's the mental shift I want everybody to ask themselves. So Sarah joins the military as a teenager. I think she said at 19. Sarah joins the military and says, I'm going to buy a home that cash flows below the median in every duty station I have over my 20-year career. She's going to use the VA loan, 0% down. She's going to use the below market interest rate that VA loans give, but she's going to, on purpose, buy at least one home in every duty station she has. And as she joins at 19, and she's now, I think she said she was 41, I think she owned up to 6 homes. Why is this the mental shift that is so eye-opening to me? Most people in the military I meet, and I've know hundreds of them, both my parents served, so it's a group that I know well. Most of them say, I'm not going to buy a home because I change my duty station every 3 years. Just think about that. Just that mental shift. She goes in at 19 saying, I'm going to do this on purpose, versus the same 19-year-old, and I would argue 90% of the 19-year-olds say, I won't buy because I'm changing. So Matt, first, how does that hit you? And then we'll go to Dion.
I mean, changed her life.
Oh, retired at 41? Yeah.
There you go. Change your life. I mean, after you're 20 and then on top of that, you own 6 rental units, and Dion can correct me if I'm wrong, because I believe the way that works is you still get a housing stipend.
Yeah.
And so they're paying your mortgage. So you got the military paying your mortgage off, which I love. And maybe you're kicking in a little bit extra money. Fine. You're going to own the asset when you're done. So, but that one decision changed her life. She's got 20 years appreciation. Yeah. She's got 20 years appreciation on one building, 17 on another, 14 on another, 11 on another. Like, and you go right down the list, and even the one that she last bought 5 years ago or whatever it was, still that same level of appreciation, 5 years appreciation on that asset. So good for her. And now she's, I don't know for sure, but I'm just guessing she's probably a millionaire, retired at 41 out of the military.
Yeah, she did confirm that yesterday. She says she's on the cusp of being a multimillionaire.
Good for her.
From this. Again, think about this. And I guess what I didn't say here, you guys will see in the interview. Just like everybody knows Matt's story, 9th grade dropout. Odds say not going to be successful.
Correct.
Sarah goes into the military at 19 as a mother of 2.
Whoa.
And she still had the I'm going to do this. It's an amazing story. Sarah, if you ever see this, shout out to you. Dion, you actually served in the military, and I think you've told us you have yet to use your VA loan. So what do you think about Sarah's story, and what the heck, man? Why did you not use your VA loan on purpose? Just teasing.
So I have a couple of reasons, but I think there's a mental shift that happens for all of us and we've talked about this before. If we take the veteran out of it and we say we have 2 financial lives, the second one starts when we realize we only have one. And we think no one's coming to save us. We got to take care of our own finances. And so for some of us, for me, it was 40, right? A billion years after getting out of the Marine Corps. Like it had nothing to do with the military or anything. And so while I was in, I think I was only in for 6 years. My career path was changed due to things outside of my control. And that's what a lot of service members don't think of, is something can change where I can't do my job. A lot of people thinking, okay, I'm going to work
True.
in law enforcement or for this union shop and get a pension in 20 or 25 years. Something could change it 17 years and
Yes, it
take that
can.
away in any field, military or not. So for a lot of people, for me, it was, I'm 40, I'm going to now do this. And it was probably getting divorced that opened my eyes to, I can do this myself. In the military, I met one person in 6 years who was investing.
Yeah, and
And he
again,
was
it's
picked
that
on for
mental.
it.
Yeah. Oh, and he got picked on for it. Of
Oh
course.
yeah. Iadardi or something was his name, and he was into stocks. And this was, before YouTube University, and everybody was like, oh, that's just gambling. So this was a million years ago. So for this Sarah to go, okay, I'm getting out now, meaning she's been investing for years, using this at several different duty stations. Most people in the military don't know you can use your VA loan before you get out, because it's called a veterans administration,
Ah,
right? And so we think
wow.
veteran means I'm out. No, it means you've served a certain number of years. You are now a veteran, whether you're in or out. So that's the first step. It kind of, like, a lot of people think I can't use my GI Bill to go to college until I get out. And that's not true either. It's once you've served a certain number of years. So the education of service members is bad. The mental shift happens across the whole spectrum. So we have somebody in the military saying, okay, I'm going to be at a new duty station every 3 to 5 years. So I can't buy a house because then I'll have too many to manage. Well, the other person is thinking, well, I'll have the opportunity to own or occupy one everything. And that's an actual opportunity. That's a mental shift. We also have the people who say, there is no way I could house hack. I have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the mental shift of, because I have kids, house hacking is probably the strongest thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And yes, it's probably not going to be roommates. It might be something like buying something like my triplex, which is a 2,000 square foot house with an ADU duplex. Right? The
Exactly.
duplex is because it was built before there was regulations on how big an ADU can be. And those houses exist in most markets because, there were houses built 20, 30, 40 years ago where it's 2 full 5-bedroom houses on one property. One of them is considered an ADU. And then we have the people that think, okay, I'm working in the military for this retirement, or I'm in this union shop for this pension. And so the brain says, and the company says, we're keeping you here because of the carrot at the end of your service years is this pension. That's what you should focus on. And so it stops a lot of people from thinking, I also need to invest. I've got several friends who are working on their second pension. And that's their only investments, period. They would never own a stock. They would never own real estate. And it's just those 2 pensions. I think, like, the paycheck is the drug that kills your dreams. The pension is the drug that kills your motivation to invest.
Yeah. I think there are so many mental roadblocks that are self-imposed. And that's really where I want to transition to, because I think a lot of these are self-imposed. And if you don't recognize them, they can be fatal. I mean, Sarah's story is a great example. She went in knowing she had a plan. Again, think about that. 19 years old, 2 kids. That on paper does not end as a multimillionaire, ending. But she had a plan and she executed it flawlessly. I have heard both of the following, and I'll just lump these together. I am too young, or I am too old to get started. These are also mental roadblocks. Dion, you're on the screen, so I'll go to you. I'm sure you've heard both flavors of that. I'm too old, or I'm too young. When you hear that, how do you kind of respond or reorient?
So when I worked at the CDL school, it was my job, once as I was demoted to president of the company, to not only work with instructors and develop curriculum, but to work with office staff and do conversion training. This is how you turn somebody into, a lead into a student, or to a new instructor, or tell somebody this isn't the thing for them. They should go find something else to do. And I had trained several people how to use someone's age as in their favor. And it culminated to me having 2 people at my desk at the same time. And it was a grandfather and grandson, so 19-year-old and 61-year-old. In the conversation, I was able to convince both of them that their age was why they need to get into this industry.
I love that. 19 and 61. Again, it's the orientation. It's how do you look at the situation? And I do agree with you. I think a lot of people look at their situation, and I don't know if it's human nature. I don't know if it's conditioning, but you always look at your situation negatively. I'm sure they sat down, both the 19-year-old and 61-year-old, with the orientation, I am too old or I am too young. and you showed them, how to kind of reorient that. So I'm going through this list because I want people to really ask themselves, do they have any self-limiting beliefs? Are they telling themselves some story that maybe if they change the viewpoint or something, they could do, it would just be life-changing. And again, I just think that's so powerful. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So we'll go to you next, Matt. I have another one for you. I am too busy. I'm just gonna, I'm basically gonna give my money away to some other, influencer, syndicator. I hear a lot of people that almost don't want the responsibility, and they just almost freely give it away to someone else that's gonna take care of them. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the scary thing about that is that how often has that turned out with a pretty bad scenario? Oh, they're promising amazing returns, and oh, they've had this track record, but markets move, markets shift. Because you and I both follow Wall Street. How many hedge funds are the number one hedge fund year after year after year with percentage returns? They aren't. Cathie Wood's been demolished the last year, and that was after 2 years after like she was a overnight success, right?
Yeah.
And it's no disrespect to her. She was amazing. She was crushed it for 2 years. And then she spent the last year and a half giving a lot of it back. And so at the end of the day, for me, from my perspective, I want to be the one actively managing my money. I want to be the one with the responsibility. And so I think that people often give up that responsibility because they don't want the responsibility.
Exactly.
They're just like, nope, not for me. I'm just going to let somebody else take care of that. And well, then, you end up with what you end up with. I ended up with what I ended up with because I took care of my money, and my money is going to take care of me, but I took care of my money, and I was the one who was managing it. I was the one who was investing it. I was the one who was managing the assets. So that's what I cared about. So I think that, for those that say I don't have the time, how do you not have the time to manage and create your own future? I mean, okay. You don't have to convince me of it. It's not going to hurt my future.
Yeah, I think I've hopefully beaten this point to death. It only takes 20 minutes a day when you have the buy box and the focus.
Right.
The other thing that Thatch Nguyen taught me when we were in the green room together one time, we were just beating up these, all the syndicators with, social media followings and, big long beards and, all of that stuff. The bigger the name, the lower the return.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it works. And I don't mind folks doing that. I just want you to do the work. I want you to be able to say, I've done the work. I've looked here. I've looked there. It just doesn't work. Again, and obviously I think there's a lot of pain coming, and I've been very clear on that over the last couple of years, and it's happening now. We'll do one more. I don't make enough money. This is a really big limiting belief. There's a game over my shoulder. I don't know if it's in screen or not. Cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
If you have this self-limiting belief, you need to play the cash flow game. So I played that game no less than 100 times. And I've gotten to the point where if you're a doctor or a lawyer and I'm a teacher, I will beat you 95 times out of 100. Not having enough money is actually freeing because your monthly nut is so much lower. You are 3 or 4 transactions from being done, right? Finding a seller finance deal, like Matt talked about earlier, finding a burb. I mean, I want people to realize, oh my God, I only need $3,000 a month to be financially free for whatever reason is. Your time, trust me, it is a lot easier to build $3,000 a month cash flow than it is 30.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know why it took Olivia and I 15 years and it took Dion 9? Because my monthly expenses was significantly more than $4,000. It's just a mathematical formula. So I hear a lot of people, because again, I was in tech, I was in sales. Olivia and I both made 6 figures, but that's why it took us 15 years. It's expensive to live in the Valley. So again, we have to get around those unlocks. Matt, since you're on screen, what do you think of that?
I completely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, you didn't start making off 6 figures.
No.
Right. So you had to build to that, because some people, that's their excuse. Oh, well, he made 6 figures, so that made it easy. Nope, you don't start there. You have to work your way up. But number two is, that's why house hacking's so great. Whether it's a super hack and you have people living in your own unit, or it's just a regular house hack and you got people just living next door. But again, 3.5% down for an owner occ. 3.5%. Come on. 3.5%.
203K loans. I mean, there's
everything. 203Ks, 203K streamlines. Now it's like, and the funny thing is like, Zoob, you and I 20 years ago, we heard of the unicorn of seller financing.
Yeah.
Now it's everywhere. Now it's everywhere. And so what people have today more than they ever had at any time in their life is 100 strategies of how to buy stuff. You know, when it was 20 years ago, it was a FHA loan, it was a conforming loan, or, you know, or it was nothing. The seller financing wasn't really a thing. You know, hard money wasn't really a thing at that point.
Yeah.
It was starting to become something, but it was much more, you know, a guy named Tony. You know, and so it was much different. And so that's what shifted, is now there's 100 different ways to do this. And that just is that much more opportunity. Just really is. So yeah, I think that real estate investors now, the conditions right now, they look hard. Jump in. You'll find a way to weave through it. Be like water. You'll find a way. Water finds its way.
Yeah. Yeah. Dion, I want to go to you to wrap up this section. You start this journey making $17 an hour, which, in case you haven't done the math, is roughly 34 grand a year. And you start in a hole, which we all know, roughly 90 grand or whatnot. So again, making a lot of money or not making a lot of money is just that, an excuse.
I laughed when you said, okay, the last one we're going to do here is I don't make enough money to save, because of two things. First, I wrote down a note on the things I wanted to talk about, but I thought I had too many written down. And the last one I wrote down was, I'll start saving when I make more. That's the mental shift that a lot of people think is going to happen.
Right.
And that's the first reason I laughed. The second reason is our shorts guy that's putting our shorts together recently did a couple of, I must have been on a saving kick on one of my long live streams, because a couple of short clips came out on saving. And they did really well. And you know how how videos work is, it goes out to the people who watch your content, then the people who watch similar content, and then it tries it on new people. It hit that third ring, and some hate comments came in on, I'm so out of touch, the average person can't save. And I don't have the energy to go back and give a class on, well, the first step to saving is to make more. The second is, half the people making more than $150,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck. Most people don't have an income problem. They have a spending problem. And yes, it is a mental shift of, and then I could give the course on, well, I had $89,000 in bad debt I didn't know about. I was a single parent with 3 kids. I was making $17 an hour. So what was I supposed to do? Just say, when I make 6 figures, I think I'll start investing. Or how do I work overtime? How do I work a side hustle? How do I start saving for that first house hack to reduce expenses as much as possible? And then 2 years later, there's that one chain, 2 years to do one thing, right? So if someone starts today, they're not going to be done in a month. If they're starting today, they're in the graduating class of 2034.
Yep. That's okay. They're going to be alive in 2034.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are going to be here in 2034, and we should start investing like it.
Yeah. Dion, do you have other kind of mental shifts? Sounds like you may have a list there.
I live in a high cost of living area. I can't invest here. I specifically targeted a high cost of living area because I wanted the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units. While Mike is killing it in Gary, Indiana, the king of Gary, Indiana, it's going to take him 5 to 10 units to be the equivalent of the cash flow of 1 unit where I'm at.
Yeah, definitely.
And yes, he doesn't self-manage, so it is less work, but he is doing rehabs and doing a lot of, he's a motivated hard charger. He's doing out there finding private money, doing a slow burn, doing all those things. And I'm like, I'm going to watch the MLS every 2 years. I'm going to make some offers, buy a property, sit there, let that stabilize for 2 years, not do anything to it. Use the binder strategy and sit back and make enough money to retire in 10 years. It's way lazier. So that mental shift for me was, I want a house hack in a high cost of living area. Because milk where I live costs, and I don't drink milk, but it costs about exactly the same as it does in a lower cost of living area. The milk isn't, the fuel to drive the truck in Indiana and here is about the same. So it's housing that is our really big expense in a high cost of living area. You eliminate that, get paid to live there. I mean, your favorite guy on the planet, Brandon Turner, house hacking a triplex in Hawaii, right? You can be in a really high cost of living area. It is a mental shift to think, because of this situation, I should do this. That was the list.
There you go. Well, this has been a lot of fun, folks. Again, we're going to go into session number 3 where we go to the chat and see what kind of questions folks have. Thank you so much.